Hello, everyone, and we are back by request to reading Carl Rogers on Becoming a Person, and we're going to pick up where we left off in the last video, which was on the top of page 135, stage 3, and we're going to continue going. So today we're going to read stage 3, and perhaps we'll get through stage 4, and then stop in the middle at bottom of stage 5, page 139. Excuse me. So here we go. Stage 3. If the slight loosening and flowing in the second stage is not blocked, but the client feels himself in these respects to be fully received as he is, then there is still further loosening and flowing of symbolic expression. Here are some characteristics which seem to belong together at approximately this point on the continuum. There is a freer flow of expression about the self as an object. Example: I try hard to be perfect with her, cheerful, friendly, intelligent, talkative, because I want her to love me. There is also expression about self-related experiences as objects. Example: and yet there is the matter of, well, how much do you leave yourself open to marriage? And if your professional vocation is important, and that's the thing that's really yourself at this point, it does place a limitation on your contacts. In this excerpt, herself is such a remote object that this would probably be best classified as being between stages 2 and 3. There is also expression about the self as a reflected object existing primarily in others. Example: I can feel myself smiling sweetly the way my mother does, or being gruff and important the way my father does sometimes, slipping into everyone else's personalities but mine. There is much expression about or description of feelings and personal meanings not now present. Usually, of course, these are communications about past feelings. Example: there were so many things I could tell people, nasty things I did. I felt so sneaky and bad. Example: and this feeling that came into me was just the feeling that I remember as a kid. There is very little acceptance of feelings. For the most part, feelings are revealed as something shameful, bad, or abnormal, or unacceptable in other ways. Feelings are exhibited and then sometimes recognized as feelings. Experiencing is described as in the past or as somewhat remote from the self. The preceding example illustrates this. Personal constructs are rigid, but may be recognized as constructs, not external facts. Example: I felt guilty for so much of my young life that I expect I felt deserved to be punished most of the time anyway. If I didn't feel I deserved it for one thing, I felt it I deserved it for another. Obviously, he sees this as the way he has constructed experience rather than as a settled fact. Example: I'm so much afraid wherever affection is involved, it just means submission. And this I hate, but I seem to equate the two, that if I'm going to get affection, then it means that I must give in to what the other person wants to do. Differentiation of feelings and meanings is slightly sharper, less global than previous stages. Example: I mean, I was saying it before, but this time I really felt it. And is it any wonder that I felt so darn lousy when this was the way it was, that they did me dirty? They did me a dirty deal plenty of times, and conversely, I was no angel about it. I realized that. There is also a recognition of contradictions in experience. Example: client explains that on one hand, he has expectations of doing something great. On the other hand, he feels he may easily end up as a bum. Personal choices are often seen as ineffective. The client chooses to do something, but he finds that his behaviors do not fall in line with this choice. I believe it will be evident that many people who seek psychological help are at approximately this point of stage 3. They may stay at roughly this point for a considerable time, describing non-present feelings and exploring the self as object before being ready to move to the next stage. Stage 4. When the client feels understood, welcomed, received as he is in the various aspects of his experience at the stage 3 level, then there is a gradual loosening of constructs, a freer flow of feelings which are characteristic of movement up the continuum. We may try to capture a number of characteristics of this loosening and term them the fourth phase of the process. The client describes more intense feelings of the not now present variety. Example, well, it hit me down deep. Feelings are described as objects in the present. Example, it encourages me to feel dependent because it means I'm kind of hopeless about myself. Occasionally, feelings are expressed as in the present, sometimes breaking through almost against the client's wishes. Example, a client, after discussing a dream including a bystander, dangerous. A client, after discussing a dream including a bystander, dangerous because of having observed his crime, says to the therapist, "Oh, all right, I don't trust you." There is a tendency toward experiencing feelings in the immediate present, and there is distrust and fear of this possibility. Example, I feel bound by something or other. It must be me. There is nothing else that seems to be doing it. I can't blame it on anything else. There's this knot somewhere inside of me. It makes me want to get mad and cry and run away. There is little open acceptance of feelings, though some acceptance is exhibited. The two preceding examples indicate that the client exhibits sufficient acceptance of his experience to approach some frightening feelings, but there is little conscious acceptance of them. Experiencing is less bound by the structure of the past, is less remote, and may occasionally occur with little postponement. Again, the two preceding examples illustrate very well this less tightly bound manner of experiencing. There is a loosening of the way experience is constructed. There are some discoveries of personal constructs. There is the definite recognition of these as constructs, and there is a beginning questioning of their validity. Example, it amuses me. Why? Oh, because it's a little stupid of me, and I feel a little tense about it, or a little embarrassed, and a little helpless. His voice softens and he looks sad. Humor has been my bulwark all my life. Maybe it's a little out of place in trying to look at myself. A curtain to pull down. I feel sort of at a loss right now. Where was I? What was I saying? I lost my grip on something that I've been holding myself up with. Here there seems illustrated a jolting, shaking consequences of questioning a basic construct. In this case, use of humor as a defense. There is an increased differentiation of feelings, constructs, personal meanings with some tendency towards seeking exactness of symbolization. Example, this quality is adequately illustrated in each of the examples at this stage. There is a realization of concern about contradictions and incongruences between experience and self. Example, I'm not living up to what I am. I really should be doing more than I am. How many hours I spent on the John in this position with my mother saying, don't come out till you've done something. Produce. That happened with lots of things. This is both an example of concern about contradictions and questioning the way in which experience has been constructed. There are feelings of self-responsibility in problems, though such feelings vacillate. Though a close relationship still seems dangerous, the client risks himself relating to some small extent on a feeling basis. Several of the above examples illustrate this, notably the one in which the client says, "Oh, all right, I don't trust you." There is no doubt that this stage and the following one constitute much of psychotherapy as we know it. These behaviors are very common in any form of therapy. It may well be to remind ourselves again that a person is never wholly at one or another stage of this process. Listening to interviews and examining these typescripts causes me to believe that a given client's expression in a given interview may be made up, for example, of expressions and behaviors mostly characteristic of stage 3, with frequent instances of rigidity characteristic of stage 2 or greater loosening of stage 4. It does not seem likely that one will find examples of stage 6 in such an interview. The foregoing refers to the variability in the general stage of the process in which the client finds himself. If we limit ourselves to some defined area of related personal meanings in the client, then I would hypothesize much more regularity. The stage 3 would rarely be found before stage 2, that stage 4 would rarely be following stage 2 without stage 3 intervening. It is this kind of tentative hypothesis which can, of course, be put to empirical test. And that is it for today. I look forward to the next time we read, which will be the start of the 5th stage on page 139. And thank you so much for being here. And thank you again for reaching out to us and requesting that we continue reading this book together. So I look forward to the next time we get to be together, which will be next week. We're going to be doing these once a week. So I look forward to meeting with all of you then.